Oh, hey, yeah. Another week. Okay, yeah, listen, about last week's game, they sucked. O-H-N-O! That is the only way we can describe our beloved Buckeyes at this point. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to Buckeye Preview. I'm Tyler Carey. Let's cut to the chase. Most of us, I'm sure, watched the Ohio State-Miami game last weekend down in South Florida. The final. Miami beating Ohio State in the ineligible, as we called it, 24-6. And it was probably not even that close. The Ohio State quarterbacks combined to only complete 4 passes. The running backs and Braxton Miller seem to have mastered the art of fumbling. And the defense has all of a sudden forgotten what a tackle is. Added to that, it seems like Joe Bosman's arm resembles raw meat. All of these problems, and yet, there is still hope. Really? Well, we'll see. I'm going to tell you why there will be hope later on, but first, let me get you caught up on these scores of this past weekend. Down in Tallahassee, top-ranked Oklahoma beat Florida State 23-13 by scoring 10 points in the final 10 minutes. Florida State was down to their backup quarterback, and in front of a record crowd at Doak Campbell Stadium could not finish the job. Auburn's winning streak is finally over. The defending national champions were defeated down in South Carolina 38-24 by Clemson. This officially knocks them out of the rankings. They are technically no longer national champions. Well, they are until they're officially eliminated. But we can pretty much place a safe bet that they're not going to go much further. The honor of the longest active winning streak in the country now belongs to Stanford. They defeated Arizona 37-10 last Saturday night. They have now won 11 games in a row dating back to last season. In South Bend, Notre Dame finally picked up their first win of the year by beating 15th ranked Michigan State 31-13. The Irish had a couple of turnovers as they normally do, but all in all they looked pretty good. Michigan State was, like Ohio State, was knocked out of the rankings. It was not a very good week for the Big Ten. Unless, of course, you go to the state up north. The Wolverines knocked off Eastern Michigan 31-3. They are now 3-0. Denard Robinson had 198 yards rushing in the game. Michigan now enters this week ranked 22nd in the Associated Press poll. It is the first time that they have been ranked ahead of Ohio State, who was unranked, since 2007, the first week. Also, it is the first time that Ohio State has been unranked since the 2004 Michigan game, which they won over the 5th-ranked Wolverines. Had to get you there, Michigan fans. In local football, Kent State moved to 0-3. They lost at Snyder Stadium to Kansas State 37-0. They are not looking very good. Darrell Hazel's still looking for his first win as Kent State head coach. Akron also took a beating down in Cincinnati, 59-14 to the Bearcats. They are also 0-3, but they take on the Virginia Military Institute this week. Hopefully the Zips can get a win. And in local high school football, Twinsburg went to Stowe last Friday night and nearly pulled off a comeback. They were down 14-0 at the half. They end up losing 27-24 in double overtime. Tough break, but pretty good battle nonetheless. Well, now that I've gotten you through the scores, let's preview this week's opponent for the Buckeyes, the Colorado Buffaloes of the newly formed Pac-12.
Colorado began playing football in 1890, and since then the Buffaloes have won 673 games. In 1948, the Buffs joined the Big 8 Conference, which later became the Big 12, and before leaving in 2010, won the conference 6 times, most recently in 2001. In 1990, the Buffs won their only national title, with a 10-1-1 record, although they shared the honor with Georgia Tech. 4 years later, Rashawn Salem gave UC their only Heisman Trophy winner to date. This season marks the Buffs' first year in the newly formed Pac-12 Conference, as they and Utah merge with the former Pac-10.
Now, while Colorado certainly has a pretty rich football history, This is their first year in the Pac-12 conference, and they have had a pretty bad run as of late. They have not had a winning season since 2005. They have not won a conference championship since 2001. They have just gotten over the horrible 5-year tenure of Dan Hawkins, in which they failed to win more than 6 games, went to just 1 bowl game, and suffered several underachieving seasons. The new head coach is John Embry, who is trying to bring back a mentality of winning down in Boulder. But so far they have not been able to amass that. They are 1-2. They have lost to Hawaii, and Cal at home. They finally beat Colorado State last week. The defense is not looking very good. They gave up 34 and 36 points in their 2 losses respectively. The offense has shown slight improvement, but that could also have room to grow. They do have 16 returning starters from last year's team that managed to go 5-7. Not very good. However, last year in the Pac-12, they gave up 400 yards per game on defense. And the defense is not looking good again this year, as I already mentioned. That could benefit Ohio State's anemic offense, who faced quick, fast, strong opponents down in Miami last week. This could be a little bit of a breather for Ohio State. That is what I'm hoping for. Colorado is not a very good team. They were not expected to be a very good team this year. And going into Ohio Stadium with the fans a little bit restless, I gotta think that Luke Fickell is going to have Ohio State ready to play, and I just don't think Colorado is talented enough, especially with their defense. Again, 34 and 36 points in their 2 losses to Hawaii and Cal. Those 2 teams, even with the Buckeyes where they are now, they're not Ohio State. Now, as we all know, one of the big reasons that Ohio State lost the biggest reason that they lost to Miami, the quarterbacks were just... Well, let me put it this way. I have watched Browns football for years, and other than a couple of games, because the Browns have just been that terrible, that was the worst quarterbacking performance I've ever seen. And it's even worse because we expect that with the Browns. We expect the Browns to throw 5 interceptions and have less than 100 yards. We don't expect that from Ohio State. This kind of a passing offense has not been seen since the 1950s era when Woody Hayes was the head coach. Back then it was acceptable, but this is the 21st century. Now, as far as who the starter should be, Braxton Miller. I am not even going any further than that. Joe Bauserman, let me put it this way. Joe Bauserman was never intended to start a game in his career at Ohio State. Terrell Pryor, I can't believe I said that name, was supposed to be the starting quarterback this year, even after the 5-game suspension. And Joe Bauserman was only supposed to see the bench as his backup quarterback. I never thought that he had much talent. He's a former minor league pitcher. I haven't seen too many fastballs this year. Must have not been his primary pitch when he was in the organization. He keeps throwing these wounded duck passes, going over the deep receivers. Too far, landing on the ground. I will say he did not get a whole lot of help from his receivers last week. A lot of drop passes. But too many bad throws, not a very strong arm, just make it absolutely abysmal to watch. Braxton Miller, on the other hand, he can move. He has not been throwing the ball very well either, but he can make up for it with his running ability. Added to that, Bauserman is a senior, Miller is a freshman. Bauserman will not do anything for Ohio State on the field beyond this season. You need Miller to be your future. You were already expecting this season Luke Fickell to be pretty much a wash. You were not going to contend for the national championship. We all knew that. So why not take the time in what is pretty much a lost season to build your future with Braxton Miller, the guy you expect to be your quarterback for years to come. Not just give a handout to a senior that was never supposed to be in his position in the first place. Braxton Miller should be the starting quarterback, win or lose, for the rest of the season. He can make things happen with his feet. He showed promise with his arm in a couple of games. Even last week, he was 2 of 4. They really didn't give him that many chances, which shocked me. Hopefully, they put him in the game more often than not. He should be the starter. Get most of the snaps and maybe learn from Bauserman. how to deal with the pressure at Ohio State. Because he is going to be in that position in the future, hopefully leading us to a national championship. So again, Braxton Miller should be the quarterback. Now, normally this is the section where I talk about a classic game. But I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to do classic moment. Even though we will be rooting against Colorado, obviously, this week, we all know that our primary opponent is the school up north. And we are playing Colorado this weekend. Colorado and the school up north happen to be involved in one of the greatest moments in college football history. Now, we go back to 1994. It's early in the year in Ann Arbor. Two top 10 teams, the Buffaloes and the Wolverines, meeting in a highly hyped matchup that could determine, in the end, who can further compete for the national championship. The Wolverines are leading 26-21. There are 6 seconds left, and Colorado has the ball on their own 27-yard line. You would think that that's a little bit too long for a Hail Mary pass, right? Right? Well, let's see what Cordell Stewart has to say about it. Abby and Matt, eat your heart out.
Well, they get one more play. One more, just 6 seconds.
I think he just went over and says, just throw it up.
The last pass is complete to Michael.
So who we got here now? We've got Caruth that can fly. You got Westbrook, who's a leaper and big and strong and can run. I would think that James Kidd would be on the field as well. Probably Blake Anderson, who's he's a tough guy. Big boy.
If I were the defense, I'd have a few more guys over there.
3 wide outs at the top of the picture. Stewart with time. Lets it go. He's got 3 people down there. The ball's up in the air. Caught. Touchdown. Caught by Westbrook for a touchdown. Incredible.
Gonna let this go on till it gets old. It's not getting old yet. Okay. That was fun. It's nice to know that Michigan still has had their bad moments, their infamous moments. We're bringing you back down to earth. You're 3-0, big wow. You're 5-0 the last 2 years. Of course, that was under Rich Fraud. Let's see how far you get. Now to my prediction. This is almost panic button mode for Ohio State. They have to win this game. And they have to really look good doing it if they want to have any hope of winning the Big Ten championship. I think they will because I have said I don't think Colorado is a very good team. Excuse me. They really don't have the speed that Miami did, the talent that Miami did, the will that Miami did. They know that they're not supposed to be a very good team. They're trying to prove something, but in Ohio Stadium, I really just don't see it. But the Buckeyes, they look really bad. I hope, assuming that they put Braxton Miller in the game. I think that Ohio State will win tomorrow, or Saturday, by a score identical to the last one almost. 27-9 will be the final score. Pretty close to the last week's score against Miami, only 3 points each did either team. Well, let's hope they can pull it out. It'll be homecoming day, so a lot of us will be busy. We may not be watching the entire game. Until Saturday, or until next week, rather, for the show, Buckeye Preview, I am Tyler Carey. Thanks for watching.